It had rained all afternoon, and just about half an hour ago the rain subsided. The Blue Jays and the Orioles, neither one of them hit on the field. The tarp was on the field most of the afternoon. But right now it's perfect. This is one of the best draining fields in all of baseball, so it should not be an issue. Let's take a look at the Blue Jays lineup. Been a little bit of a scuffle lately offensively. Top of the order, Jose Reyes, Melky Cabrera, Jose Bautista. Then the cleanup hitter is the first baseman, Edwin Encarnacion. This year, he's 8 for 25 against the Orioles. 3 doubles, a home run. He's driven in 6. And right behind him, Adam Lynn, the DH, has been hot over his last 25 games. He has hit 10 doubles, a home run, and driven in 9 during that stretch. And the Blue Jay bats need to pick things up a bit.
They will be facing 23-year-old Kevin Gausman tonight. This makes his second straight start in place of the injured Miguel Gonzalez. Very impressive in his last outing. Picked up his first career win as a starter. There are his numbers this year: 1-1 with a .491 earned run average. He beat the Oakland A's, allowing just 1 run in a career high 7 innings in his last time out. It's his 5th appearance and second start versus the Blue Jays in his career. And he's 0-1 versus Toronto in that time. He's got a good arm, good live arm. Blue Jays are going to have to crank it up tonight.
Defensively, the Orioles are always among the top in defense. Nelson Cruz in left. Then you got the 3-time Gold Glover in center, Adam Jones. Nick Markakis won a Gold Glove in 2011. Manny Machado's had a rough start to his season, both in the field and at the plate. He's committed 7 errors already. J.J. Hardy, Jonathan Scope up the middle. Chris Davis at first base, and Caleb Joseph filling in for the injured Matt Wieters. Joseph and Rick Hundley have been doing the catching since Wieters on the DL.
Don't want to run on this guy right here. He's got one of the best arms in the outfield. Team leading 4 outfield assists. The O's have 12 outfield assists, which is 5th most in the American League.
Markakis just doesn't have the opportunities because his reputation is well known. So Reyes will step in, the switch hitter. He is 1 for 2 against Kevin Gausman. Here's the first pitch of the ball game. It is in there for a strike, and we are underway. Reyes batting .266. Because after that fastball, Gausman will come after you. He's got a good fastball, and he likes to set it up early.
Yeah, it's a live fastball, too, with some good movement on it. He gets in trouble when he can't hit his spots. He was a very high draft pick for the Baltimore Orioles, and it's taken some time to get used to the big leagues.
The changeup missed down and away. He was the first pitcher taken in the draft in 2012. He was 4th overall. One and 2 to Reyes. Downstairs, 95. There's no question about his arm.
Yeah, it's a smooth delivery. He's very competitive, very intelligent out on that mound. He's smart. And for him, I think it's just fastball command.
Reyes bounces it over the Blue Jays dugout, out of play. Jose is on a 12-game hit streak. 16 for 52. Average been on a slow, steady climb. There are the numbers for the hit streak. Just over 300. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Little tapper up the third baseline. Going to be a tough play for Gausman, and he can't make it. Make it 13 straight for Reyes as he starts the game off with a swinging bunt up the third baseline.
When you're hot, it doesn't matter who's pitching or where you hit it, you're going to come up with your share of base hits. It looked like a splitter from Gausman. It goes down, and Reyes somehow just gets a piece of it. Hits it out in no man's land. With his speed, he's going to beat that out all the time. Right into the dirt, right into the soft grass that's wet from all the rain that they got this afternoon. Good start for the Jays.
Melky Cabrera will step in with Reyes at first. Cabrera batting .302 for the season. The Blue Jays, after really setting a fast-paced tone early in the season, have been outscored in the first inning recently. They have allowed the opponents to score first in 7 straight games in the first inning. Outside as Cabrera shortened up the bunt. The Blue Jays over their last 7 games have been outscored 13-4 in the first 3 innings. They're not used to that.
No, they aren't, because they did it with regularity early in the season. And especially at home, that really hurt the Minnesota series. Before they even got a chance to hit, they were down 2-0 in all 3 games.
There's a strike. Jerry Lane, the veteran umpire, very deliberate with that strike call.
You know, and when you fall behind early like that, psychologically, you feel like offensively it just limits what you can do. You can't really take chances when you fall behind early.
This is popped over the Blue Jays dugout. It's 2-2 to Melky Cabrera. Bautista is next. Well, you're right. And when you look at the Blue Jays offensively, everybody says, well, they hit a lot of home runs. Well, they haven't homered in but 1 game in the last 5. They won that game, but overall, I think they've been taken out of their approach because they've been behind early.
Behind, and they like to run and they like to hit and run. At some point, they're going to have to start driving in runs other than hitting home runs.
Full count. Melky Cabrera with a full count. Reyes at first. You start the runner here early?
Yeah, I'm starting the runner. Gausman is a strikeout pitcher, but he's a young pitcher. You got him on the ropes. Let's see if you can apply some pressure early in this ball game.
There goes Reyes, and Melky fouls it over the screen, out of play. The young catcher for the Orioles, Caleb Joseph, he's actually in his first big league stint. He's 27. He can turn 28 later on this week. But he's thrown out 40% of the runners. He's got a good arm.
Take your chances on a hit and run here, or a run and hit. Shortstop was covering last time Reyes took off.
There he goes again. And it's hit to the third baseman, Manny Machado. Reyes is headed for third. Machado can't get back in time, and he does. Oh, what a play by Machado. He was scuffling to get back to the bag. Chris Davis has a terrific arm, and he made a good throw. Reyes may have been spiked on his right hand.
We have seen Jose do this in the past. He's thinking about going first to third on that grounder. He just takes right off. He's going to force you to go ahead and throw you out. And you're right, Chris Davis is an excellent athlete. He's a good athlete. He can play different positions. Reyes tries to get in, and right there it looked like Machado stepped on Reyes's fingers. Good play by Machado, a good play by Davis, and he gets back.
It's a ground out, 5-3. John Gimmons was out to talk to Hunter Wendelstedt, the third base umpire, but he has given up the discussion. So Melky Cabrera is retired, 5-3. Reyes is out 3-5, trying to advance. It is not a double play, so Bautista bats with nobody on and 2 out. Reyes trying to force the issue, and the Blue Jays needed that type of effort, but Chris Davis, he has played third base, he's played in the outfield, and as a first baseman, he's got one of the best arms in the American League.
And I don't have a problem with that. We have seen Jose Reyes in the past really ignite the offense by doing those types of things right there. He had a good shot. It took a good play. If he makes it, Bautista's hitting with a runner at third and less than 2 outs.
Ball on a strike. Good sinking fastball, and Bautista got jammed. He got a fistful of bees.
Don't you find it really interesting, the defensive alignment for Jose Bautista? The Baltimore Orioles have been advanced scouting him.
Well, the Baltimore Orioles were maybe the most aggressive early in the season, playing Bautista 3 infielders on the left side of the diamond. Not the case now. 86-mile-an-hour splitter missed down and away. Kevin Gausman, when he made it to the big leagues last year, was the first player in the first round of the 2012 draft to make it to the big leagues.
And maybe he was rushed just a little bit because of the problems that the Orioles have had trying to find some starters and fill out their starting rotation. And rushed, I mean, didn't have command of the fastball like you need to win here. So a lot of on-the-job training for Gausman. Bouncing up and down the last couple of years, but he's got a great arm.
Another good pitch right on the inside corner. Every single pitcher, it's an individual case. The Orioles know what kind of makeup Gausman has. He came out of LSU. He was coached there as a pitching coach by Alan Dunn, who was the bullpen coach for the Orioles. So Dunn knows the big league situation, and he did a good job of helping Gausman get ready for professional baseball.
He did a good job scouting for the Orioles, telling them all they need to know about this kid. He's smart, confident, very intelligent out on the mound. Just a matter of time until he figures it out and throws strikes consistently.
Strikes out Bautista after a leadoff single. Gausman sits down the Blue Jays 1-2-3. We'll go to the bottom of the first. Mark Burley looking for his 11th win. Delman Young is the DH tonight, and then you've got the All-Star Adam Jones. June batting, he's hitting 416 for 40 with 4 home runs already this month and 11 RBIs. And then down in the 5th spot, Nelson Cruz. The Blue Jays hate to see his name in the lineup. Look at the numbers he's put up. 381 average this year against the Blue Jays, and the Orioles will take on Mark Burley.
10-2 with a 204 earned run average. Those 10 wins tied with Masahiro Tanaka for the most wins in Major League Baseball. He's also 5-0 on the road. Last start, 7 innings, gave up just 1 run. That was a home run. The Cardinals, unfortunately, he was matched up against Shelby Miller through a shutout in that game.
Burley left that ball game trailing 1-0 through 7 innings. Nick Markakis, the leadoff man. Takes the first pitch on the inside corner. Markakis has hit .403 in the first inning this year. So Buck Showalter continues to hit him in that leadoff spot.
And a great on-base percentage. You see that .361. Gets it started.
And just for good measure, we'll give you his numbers against Mark Burley. He's hit .429 against Burley. He's 18 for 42.
Yeah, there's a lot of players in this lineup who have had their share of success against Mark.
Well, this is a little different Mark Burley than they've seen in the past. Burley beat them earlier in April when they were here. He's got the ability to command his pitches. And one thing we saw last time out, he really struggled with his command. There's that breaking ball that's been so good for him. He walked 5 against the Cardinals and it looked like he just didn't have a good feel of the baseball.
I don't think he had a good grip on the baseball.
Markakis gets another first inning hit. He is on a tear. Leadoff single for Nick Markakis. Let's take a look at the Blue Jays defensive alignment tonight. Melky Cabrera in left field has 5 assists already in the outfield. Anthony Gose in center. Jose Bautista, he's got 7 outfield assists. Francisco back at third base. Reyes and Laurie up the middle. Encarnacion's at first. And Yana Navarro has really done a good job catching Mark Burley this season.
And those 7 outfield assists, second in all of baseball behind Yoenis Cespedes, who has 9.
Delman Young, the DH tonight. He got the nod in the DH slot because of his numbers against Mark Burley. He's got a .378 career batting average against the Blue Jays lefty. It's his ball high and deep to left, and this ball is gone. Delman Young hits his 4th career home run against Mark Burley here in the 1st inning, and the Blue Jays have given up another 1st inning home run.
Yeah, that's 4 in a row that I remember. 3 against Minnesota, and now here in Baltimore. You mentioned the great numbers that Delman Young has had against Mark Burley. That's his 4th career home run, his 2nd of the season. It's a high cutter, it looks like, and that speeds up his bat, and he lines it out of here for a very quick 2-0 lead.
4 straight games the Blue Jays have given up a home run in the 1st inning. Blue Jays find themselves trailing once again 2-0. Adam Jones off to a terrific start in the month of June. That's the 4th home run Burley has allowed. Gave up a home run in his last start against the Cardinals.
And that's been, you know, a shining light for Mark Burley this year, is his ability to keep the ball in the ballpark. Last year, gave up a lot of home runs, especially early in the year. So far this year, he's kept it in the ballpark for the most part.
One and 2. This is a very potent lineup. Jones hits 3rd in the lineup. He too has good numbers against Mark Burley. To me, this lineup is as close to the Blue Jays lineup as any lineup in the American League.
You know, and they're getting healthy again. Other than Matt Wieters, who is out with the elbow problem. Machado's back, and Chris Davis is back. Missed some time early this season. They've got a lot of power up and down this lineup. 6 of the 10 runs they scored against the Red Sox in the series they just played came via the home run.
2-2 pitch to Jones, and it's low. It's a full count. The Blue Jays are in a tough stretch. The opposition has scored now in the 1st inning in 8 straight games, and that's hard to fathom. The starters really haven't pitched that poorly, but they're falling behind early. So Mark Burley's still trying to zero in on his command. It takes him a while because he's got such a wide assortment of pitches.
Well, he's got all of the, look at all the slices of pie that he can go to when he needs some outs. Fastball, changeup, curveball. He'll cut the ball in and out to the lefties and the righties. Not afraid of that. And the slider. Changeup is a very good pitch for him. And the Orioles are a fastball hitting team. They love the heater, so the changeup might be an important pitch for him tonight.
Chris Davis, the first baseman. They play Davis to pull on the infield. Davis and Jones have been the Blue Jays' nemesis the last couple of years since they have teamed up. Chris Davis has hit 18 home runs against the Blue Jays since the start of the 2012 season.
And he's so strong. He doesn't have to pull the ball to hit it out of the ballpark. We've seen him plenty of times go the other way against the Blue Jays.
Adam Jones, his home run partner, has hit 14 against the Jays over that same time frame. Big wild swing, and Davis was out in front.
That's the changeup right there. Might be a big pitch for him if he can get the Orioles to offer at it.
There's a fly ball into center. Anthony Gose has room. Jones going back to first to tag up. Gose loads up the throw, and he delivers a strike on a one hop to second. That's the first out of the inning, and you go back to Nelson Cruz at Rogers Center. He had a good series against the Jays.
He is such a dangerous hitter. Anything inside, up and in, down and in, he can go get it. That was a fastball by Dustin McGowan that was turned around. And how about this fastball from Todd Bregman, grand slam? That one looked about shoulder high. Anything up and in or down and in, he's ready to turn on it.
And he's a very aggressive first pitch swinger. He takes that first pitch for a strike. Cruz with 21 home runs and 55 RBIs. Didn't you know it, when the Blue Jays heard that Cruz was signing with the Orioles, it sent a shiver down their spine.
Yeah, he has really had some of his best games in his career against Toronto.
Home run leaders: Cruz, Encarnacion, Abreu just back off the DL. Josh Donaldson, the A's third baseman. There's a fly ball into center. Goes, has it measured, and Cruz is retired. Go back to the top of the inning as J.J. Hardy steps into the box. Nick Markakis had that leadoff single. That ties him now with Brian Roberts for 7th all time on the Orioles hit list. He's got 1,452 hits. Moving up the ladder.
Ken Singleton is in his sights, isn't he?
Ken Singleton is now just 3 away, I believe. J.J. Hardy, he takes first pitches at the best rate in the majors. He rarely swings at that first pitch. Ball on the strike. Burley has owned this matchup. Hardy's just 3 for 25 against Burley. After all the bad news we gave you at the top of the order, we figured we'd give you some good news.
Some time for some good news. And Hardy is a very good fastball hitter. Holds his bat out away from his body. You think you can get it in there, but he's very quick.
Ground ball. Reyes hits short. They go to second. That ends the inning. But once again, Blue Jays find themselves in an early hole. They're down 2-0. Jays will send Edwin Encarnacion to the plate. He's got 12 home runs here. Adam Lind, then Brent Laurie when we come back.
Brought to you by the 2014 Honda CR-V. Honda, proud to be the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays. And by Home Hardware, homeowners helping homeowners with expert advice.
Blue Jay fans on hand here at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. It looked like this game had a chance to be rained out, but the skies have broken up, and for the time being, we've got a comfortable night. I misspoke in that the Blue Jays opponents have scored first in 8 straight games, not in the first 8 innings. They have been outscored first in the last 8 games.
Tough to climb out of that hole when you fall behind early. I don't care what the score is.
Edwin Encarnacion has 12 career home runs in this ballpark this year against the Orioles. was 8 for 25 with a homer and 6 RBIs. Broken bat. J.J. Hardy, it's short. In time, 1 down. Kevin Gausman made his major league debut against the Blue Jays last year, and they knew firsthand they're going to get a lot of fastballs.
Yeah, you can see that from his pitch usage chart for this year. 72% of the time he's going to throw you that fastball. He's also got a very good splitter, a slider, and a changeup that he just started working into his repertoire last year. He's not a fastball slider kind of guy. He's a back and forth kind of guy now. His fastball 95, 96, but he's also using that changeup in the splitter to work off the same thing, accomplish the same thing. He's got a good arm.
Well, he was the first pitcher taken in a draft, as we mentioned, in 2012. Lynn gets jammed and lifts a fly ball to the left. Nelson Cruz is there. 2 quick outs here in the second.
I think there's always a period for young pitchers when they get to the big leagues that they have to learn. You can't do the same things you did down in the minor leagues or in college in Gausman's case and come up to the big leagues and think you're going to succeed. There's going to be that period where you're going to have to learn something about yourself. Maybe pitches that you threw in college or in AAA were swung on and missed. Here they hit them when you make mistakes. So you got to learn how to control your fastball, set up hitters, and make good pitches.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the fact that hitters don't swing at borderline pitches. They make you throw strikes. And a lot of power pitchers like Gausman will get a lot of chase swings in college and back in high school.
I think it's harder now for young pitchers to come up and succeed because there's so much video. You go 1 or 2 times out there and the opposition's got a boatload of information that they're going to use against you. So you have to constantly adjust and constantly perform.
Yeah, when you made it to the big leagues, you'd have to get 3 or 4 personal at-bats before you had an idea what the guy was throwing.
Yeah, or your scouting report would be, likes to use his fastball.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks a lot.
That helps.
Okay. Above average breaking ball.
Yeah. Well, what's average? Well, I can hear his spinning. That's a good one.
Well, now every game is on television, so every game is scouted, and there's tapes and libraries of everything that you do. So even before you step into that batter's box, you can have a pretty good idea of what the guy's going to try and do to you.
Brett Laurie with the 3-1 count. He'll take ball 4. Well, the Blue Jays have had a little bit of a rough patch lately, but they still have a 4.5 game lead over the Orioles and the Yankees. They are 3 up in the loss column. Red Sox had a tough series here. They lost 2 of 3 in the hands of the Orioles, and Tampa Bay, they have just had a miserable start to their season.
Yeah, and the Blue Jays have a chance to put a little distance between the 2 teams right behind them, the Orioles and the Yankees. 10 out of the next 13 games against those 2 teams. On the road, this road trip, talked to some of the players over the last couple of days, and I asked them about this road trip and, is it any different? And to a man, they said no. We're just going to treat this like any other road trip. Now, we get all excited, and the fans and the media get all excited about how big this road trip is, but for a player, it's just another baseball game.
Yeah, you don't get any extra points for beating your AL East rivals. It makes a difference in the standings, but at this point of the season, you just got to get back to playing good baseball.
Yes. Yep. Executing.
Bouncing ball. Davis comes after it, takes it on the short hop, and the inning is over. Blue Jays get a 2-out walk, and they strand a run. We'll go to the bottom of the second. Blue Jays trail 2-0 in Baltimore.
that got Machado upset. He charged, went right into the face of Donaldson, and so the Oakland A's said, well, we're going to have something to say about that. They throw at him, and then he throws the bat. From that bat throwing incident, he was suspended 5 days as the benches cleared, and there was a little yapping going on between these two teams. But it sounds like the Baltimore Orioles policed themselves.
Yeah, they sure did. Manny Machado's 21 years old. He was suspended for 5 games. He's appealing the length of that as a suspension. But they had a players-only meeting, and they addressed the situation. And from what we've gathered, the players are pretty tough on Manny Machado.
And he was very apologetic when he came out after that meeting. And mistake, you know, everybody's gets a second chance.
You and I have talked to Machado in the past. He's a wonderful young man. He drives this ball to right. Bautista on the run. On the run. He's not going to get it. Bounces over his glove off the wall. Manny Machado will have an opposite field double. His 4th double of the season. That's how the Orioles start the bottom of the 2nd.
That was out of character for Machado from what we saw over the last week. He's got power to all fields. He can send it out left, center, and it looked like right field. Got behind this one and drove that ball to right field. Bautista does everything he can to try and catch it. Slams it up against that wall. And Machado leads off the 2nd with a double. He had been struggling.
First hit in his last 19 ABs. Snaps that long over. Jonathan Schoop bunts it up the 3rd baseline. Burley's a great fielder. He'll make the play. Schoop gets the job done. Machado moves to 3rd on the play.
You know, you mentioned that series they just had against the Boston Red Sox. They didn't actually crush the cover off the ball against Boston Red Sox, but they won that series. So Buck Showalter says, you know what, leadoff double, I got to figure out a way to get that runner to 3rd base and take my chances of driving him in.
The Orioles won 2 of the 3 games, but they were just 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position during the 3 games. And there were shutouts in each of the 3 games. 4-0 Orioles, 1-0 Boston, 6-0 Orioles. Caleb Joseph. Joseph, the catcher, he and Nick Hundley are filling in for Matt Wieters, who's got a bad arm. Been on the disabled list for quite a while.
Infield, you saw, was in by the Blue Jays. And the Orioles will probably make the ball go through.
There's Matt Wieters in a dugout, and you can bet this is killing him. He's starting a throwing program, trying to get back to the active roster.
Here's the infield in. Machado not a very big lead at 3rd base.
Pickoff throw to 3rd, and Machado gets back. The Orioles are the best team in the major leagues hitting with runners in scoring position. They've got a 287 average. Now, to counteract that, Mark Burley has allowed just a 113 average with runners in scoring position. So something's got to give here.
Something's got to give. The Orioles making it work for them. Now, I say they're not going to use that contact play or try and send the runner on a ground ball with the infield in. There's a couple of reasons why. Machado, first of all, doesn't run that well. Second of all, you got Nick Markakis on deck. And you just spit out the numbers that he has had against Mark Burley.
Joseph gets a piece of that slow breaking ball. Markakis has already singled and scored tonight. So, yeah, you're right. I don't think they're going to play the contact play here.
Make the ball go through. Anything on the ground, if you're the runner, got to make sure that it gets through the infield. Blue Jays should know that, and I don't think they need to come all the way in on the grass.
Joseph is putting up a fight against Burley. They talk about the opponent's average with runners in scoring position. Lowest in the major leagues, that's Mark Burley. Scott Kazmir of the A's. Yu Darvish is at 130. Dallas Keuchel of the Astros, and then Josh Beckett of the Dodgers. So Burley's leading the way in this department. And right there, he gives up a base hit. Caleb Joseph drives home Manny Machado. 3-0 Orioles.
Ball was up. He's been getting all those ground ball, pop-up strikeouts. with runners in scoring position by keeping the ball down and making good pitches. That time it looked like he wanted to try and cut the fastball on the inner half, but it stayed up and it was very flat. Didn't do a whole lot right there, and Joseph smacks it into left field.
Caleb Joseph, that's his 4th RBI of the season. Baltimore now with a 3-0 lead. Nick Markakis, the leadoff man. Infield, the double play depth. That leadoff double comes around to score. Manny Machado from opposite field and hit one off the scoreboard for a double.
I like how they use the sacrifice bunt. Pick up a run. You score a run and the opposition's got to score 2 to beat you.
Up and in, and Markakis swings and misses. The Orioles now have 15 sacrifice bunts this season, but Showalter always emphasizing the team point of view.
They don't really have a lot of team speed where they can manufacture runs by stealing bases or going first or third. So you better be able to put the bunt down.
Markakis chases one up and in and strikes out.
Blue Jays on Sportsnet. Brought to you by the 2014 Honda CR-V. Honda, proud to be the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
There's even some clear skies beyond the ballpark here in Baltimore. 2 outs now. Delman Young homered in his first at bat. He's going to fly out to center here. Went after the first pitch, and the Orioles tack on another run. They've taken a 3-0 lead after 2 here in Baltimore. Davidi taking you beyond the bases with analysis and expert opinion. Shai Davidi, MLB Insider only on Sportsnet.ca. That's a pretty picture. Right around here, the Inner Harbor, not far away, a couple blocks away. The Geese have a nice resting place. Blue Jay fans always enjoy coming here to Baltimore. Its proximity to downtown. The Inner Harbor is very friendly. Shai Davidi reported that Aaron Sanchez was going to be promoted from AA to AAA, and he has been sent to the Buffalo Bisons. And I'm going to characterize a little bit like Kevin Gosman. I mean, when you look at numbers, and I think numbers in the minor leagues are just really kind of worthless. You have to look at the action of the baseball, the composure of the player, and you know how I feel about Aaron Sanchez and what I've seen from Aaron Sanchez pitch all spring long.
How about the mindset of a young pitcher also?
Yeah, you're going to challenge him.
Challenge him.
And if you know what, if he can't handle the challenge, then you got the wrong guy.
Right.
Push him, push him, push him. If you look at Pat Henkin, Chris Carpenter, Roy Halladay, you go down and look at their minor league numbers, there is nothing that would make you believe those guys would be Cy Young Award winners. They blossomed when they came to the big leagues because they were up for the challenge, and I think Sanchez is going to be in that type of category.
How about being in AAA with some older pitchers and maybe you could learn something from them? Or how about an ex-major league catcher in AAA?
Mike Nickias is down there, and he's a terrific catcher, and I think that's going to help as well. Plus, you've got Gary Allenson as the manager, who was a former big league catcher, who grew up with Roger Clemens and Bruce Hurst and all those great Red Sox pitchers. I think it's a good atmosphere for him. He's young, and he needs the challenge. Juan Francisco back in the lineup. He got the day off yesterday, as John Gibbons recognized. He's struggling a bit at the plate right now. 1 ball, 1 strike. Blue Jays trail 3-0. I think the one thing the Jays have to think about is having that good approach again. They didn't hit home runs because they were trying to. They hit home runs because they were having good at-bats.
That's the whole key right there. Their approach at the plate.
Little squibber off the end of the bat. Gausman will run it over toward first and toss it to Davis. 1 down.
And you don't want to think about the results. You got to think about the process. And what is the process? Are they doing everything they can offensively to think about going back through the middle or hitting with 2 strikes or what their approach is at the plate? Now, everybody's going to go through slumps, and they're going to go through the ups and downs of a long major league season. I think you have to stay mentally strong, mentally tough, and then come to work every day. Lunch pail attitude. I'm going to come to work and grind it out.
Anthony Ghost, the number 9 hitter. He's late on that fastball. Gausman's got a good fastball. That last pitch was 96 miles an hour.
Yeah, he's so smooth and so under control when he lets go of the ball. The ball's got some good movement on it tonight.
Gausman grew up in Aurora, Colorado. He was drafted by the Dodgers in the 6th round of the 2010 draft out of high school.
They know something about pitching, don't they? The Dodgers, when they see young players.
Yeah, if I'm a big league club and the Dodgers select somebody in the 6th round and he doesn't sign, I'm keeping my eye on him.
Yes. Yeah, they Kershaw and Billingsley, the last couple of years, these young pitchers that they have drafted out of high school and developed.
Upstairs. A ball and 2 strikes to Anthony Ghost, batting with 1 out.
Gausman seemed to put it all together in his last start against the Oakland A's. One of the best hitting teams in all of baseball. 7 sterling innings.
Well, I think, too, when you put Gausman in a situation like this, you're not asking him to be the number 1 guy. You're asking him to be a filler. You know, Miguel Gonzalez had a rehab start last night, and he's going to come back. So Gausman can maybe swing. He can also maybe move the pin. That's a bullet off Gausman, and that's going to be a base hit for Anthony Ghost. And Evan Gausman got hit pretty hard. Buck Showalter, the manager, very concerned. Now Richie Bancells, the trainer, is jogging out from the dugout. Buck Showalter still in the Orioles dugout, and that was a line shot right back to the mound.
He got strike 2 with the fastball, thought he had strike 3, and then went back to the fastball. And that time Anthony Ghost was waiting for him. Hard heater. It looked like he turned just in time. Yeah, and it got him right where there's a lot of padding.
Boy, if you're going to have to get hit somewhere, that's probably the best place you could possibly get hit. Right in that right cheek, and it deflected, and now Dave Wallace, the pitching coach, has come out of the dugout. He's going to make sure that his pitcher is okay. Richie Bancells has been here forever. Terrific trainer, and he's got a close eye on Kevin Gausman.
It's almost like Dave's got something that he wants to say to his young pitcher. He's got a message that he wants to say to him.
It was funny how he was standing back watching the pitcher throw those 2 pitches before he even approached the umpire or the trainer. Dave Wallace, in his first year with the Orioles, longtime pitching coach, does a terrific job with these young guys.
Tell you what, that was really close to hitting him in the arm. I mean, he got his arm out of the way just in time.
So Ghost at first base with a 1-out single. Anthony is 3 for 5 in steal attempts. Mentioned Caleb Joseph, the catcher, has thrown out 40% of the runners.
And here's what falling behind in the game does to you. Once again, you can't really take chances.
And that's one thing the Blue Jays haven't done. They haven't strung hits together. In yesterday's game, they had a couple of hits in the 6th to start the inning. But then Phil Hughes really buckled down. He was able to get Bautista, Encarnacion, and Lind in order.
Yeah, that was a big inning for yesterday. But then by the time they started putting it together in the 8th, they were down by too many runs.
Jose Reyes had a swinging bunt single in his first at bat that extended his hit streak. Reyes has now hit in 13 straight games. No one's working harder at this than Kevin Seitzer, trying to put his finger on the problem, get things turned around. I think more than anything over these last 5 or 6 games, Blue Jays have been chasing borderline pitches that they were laying off of early.
And when they get a good pitch to hit, they're missing it, fouling it back, or they're topping it. I'm with you. A little bit too anxious at times, and then they're missing a pitch. And you hope, you know, if someone has to go through it, it's maybe one guy or two guys. Right now, everybody's struggling a little bit offensively.
That being said, the Blue Jays have won 21 of the last 29. Down the stairs, it's 2-2. Blue Jays have also won their last 6 road games, including a sweep of the Tigers in Detroit.
Played well on the road this year. They really have. They've won 19 games out of 30 on the road. The road has a way of bringing your team together.
Why is that?
Well, you're around each other so much. And you can go out to dinner with your teammates, or you can go do things after the game or before the game, and you spend so much time with them. Bring the guys together, you come up with some big wins on the road, and next thing you know, you're on a roll.
There goes Ghost. The ball is popped up. Manny Machado heads into foul territory. He makes the catch. Ghost gets back to first. Reyes is retired. Well, the Blue Jays on the road have put together a good run. 11 of their last 12 they've won. The ERA has been great. Look at the run differential. I think that's a big number for the Blue Jays, and they got to get back to that.
Yeah, the run differential, knock the ball out of the ballpark. You know, another thing, what happens when you go on the road, you get that mentality of us against the world kind of thing. Everybody's against you, and you pull together as a group. It just happens. And if you can win some tough ball games against good teams in their home ballpark, it gives you a lot of confidence.
Melky Cabrera batting with 2 outs. These two teams have split the first 6 games of the season. Blue Jays won 2 of 3 here earlier in April, and then the Orioles returned the favor at Rogers Center. Took 2 of 3 from the Jays.
What's been the theme on those games also?
Big innings.
Big inning, you're right.
There have been a bunch of big innings between these two. Go back to Rogers Center, April 24th. Orioles scored 5 in the 7th and 4 in the 8th. Blue Jays had a lead. There were 2 6-run innings on Wednesday the 23rd. Each club scoring 6 runs in that ball game at Rogers Center. 3-0. Bautista waits on deck if Cabrera can reach.
This is the polish that we were talking about, that he's got a good arm, but it's just not polished enough where he falls behind and has big innings. He had 21 pitches in the first inning. He's all the way up to 50 here in the third inning. And he's fallen behind Cabrera.
Well, he got hit by that comebacker too off the bat of Anthony Gose. You can bet Dave Wallace is going to keep a close eye on him, the pitching coach, just to see if he changes anything. But now he has walked Melky Cabrera. That'll bring Bautista to the plate, representing the tying run. There's Dave Wallace in the dugout, and a very experienced pitching coach.
I think that's the first thing pitching coaches watch when a young pitcher has been hit in the lower half. Does his arm angle change just a little bit? Does he have the same drive off that mound?
Gausman gets ahead of Bautista with the first pitch strike. Bouncing ball to third. Manny Machado across the diamond. Gausman gets out of it. The Blue Jays strand a pair. Can't break through against the young Orioles right-hander just yet. Blue Jays have trouble with, and the one thing about him is he loves to hit that low ball, especially the home runs. When you look at the pattern of home runs with Adam Jones, he is a strict low ball hitter.
Yeah, so you gotta have to crowd him up a little bit, or maybe pump the ball up. I was looking at his home runs today, his spray chart. You know, he's only hit 1 of his 10 home runs to left field. He's had 5 to center field and 4 to right field. In the past, it was just the opposite. He was a dead pull hitter. Now he's starting to use the whole field, and his power's starting to show.
And what has happened is, because of that approach, his average is up over 300. He has found out you don't have to pull the ball out of this ballpark to hit home runs. Jones walked into first. He was erased on a fielder's choice. He went around. 0-2. Blue Jays starters have done a terrific job, and when you think about where the Blue Jays are now, you could look at every aspect of the team and say it's improved, but I think the most dramatic improvement has been from the starting rotation. They have 31 wins so far this season as a staff. The Blue Jays starters didn't win their 31st game last year until August 17th. their 123rd game.
123rd game of the season last year. And we've said it time and time again here. You get starters who go deep and give you positive decisions, pitch deep enough and pitch well enough to win ball games, you're going to have a good season. They've allowed 3 earned runs or less in 10 of their last 11 games. Starters have been great.
Jones hits it to third. Francisco takes his time and throws him out. 1 down. Let's check in with Jamie Campbell. Well, Cleveland has had a pretty good run. They've won 7 of their last 10 games. They've improved to 500, and that AL Central's trying to get all jammed up. Top to bottom, only 3.5 games separates the Tigers from the Minnesota Twins.
How about that? And the Indians, they're starting to smack that ball around the field, aren't they?
Boy, Lonnie Chisnall has really made a difference the way he's swinging the bat lately. Had a 3-homer game this past week. Tigers have hit a tough stretch. They are 2-8 over their last 10 games, and they're the standings. Kansas City's hanging in there. The White Sox are a pretty good ball club. Cleveland. I think the Minnesota Twins are a different team now. Gloria is out on the outfield grass, and he throws out Chris Davis. 2 down.
The 2014 Honda CR-V. Honda, proud to be the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Mark Burley, 8-8 in 20 career starts against the Orioles. Has fallen behind early, 3-0. Nelson Cruz flied out on the first pitch he saw back in the first inning. He's a very aggressive hitter, and he goes after the second pitch, and he drops it in front of Bautista. Q shot off the end of the bat. 2-out single for Cruz.
He's way off the plate, and you think you can get him down and away, but he strides into that, and he's got outstanding plate coverage. Looked like Burley took a little something off of that, turned the ball over, trying to get him, Cruz, to roll over on that, and just shot it in the right field.
Shortstop J.J. Hardy. Ball on the strike. Hardy was rejuvenated when he joined the Orioles. He won a couple Gold Gloves here, 2012, 2013. He pops this one up left side of the infield. Juan Francisco, the third baseman, waits for it, and Hardy's retired. Orioles leave a runner in their half of the third, but go to the fourth. Blue Jays are down by 3. Day will take place Sunday, June 29th, when the Blue Jays take on the Chicago White Sox. Game time is 1:07 p.m. The first 20,000 fans will receive a Blue Jays visor. And with summer coming up, you got to have one of these. Call the Blue Jays at 416-341-1234 or log online at BlueJays.com to get your tickets for the Blue Jays visor giveaway Sunday, June 29th, when the Jays take on the White Sox. Kevin Gausman made his Major League debut against the Toronto Blue Jays last May. It was his first big league start. His first big league strikeout was Edwin Encarnacion. And that's who will lead things off here in the fourth. Edwin grounded out to shortstop his first time up. Breaking ball for a strike. It's 1-1.
I tell you, they have had their share of first-round draft picks over the years who got up here very quickly, but no one in their history has started a game faster than Kevin Gausman. So when we say that there's still some polish and there's still some work, it's still there, but I think he's got a bright future.
Well, one of the big Oriole draft picks came out of LSU just like Gausman. That was Big Ben McDonald. He was the #1 pick as well, and he had quite a run with the Orioles. There's a broken bat fly ball to left. Nelson Cruz over makes the catch. 1 out. We mentioned that Kevin Gausman made his debut May 23rd, 2013, and since he came into the big league, he is right up there with all the hard throwers in baseball.
Yeah, take a look at that. He averages almost 96 miles an hour on that fastball velocity. Just behind Garrett Cole, Evaldi, Harvey, and Ventura. And it came quick, came very quick through the farm system. You were mentioning Ben McDonald. He reached the big leagues in fewer innings than Kevin Gausman, but it did not start in fewer innings.
Adam Lynn batting with 1 out.
And as good as he has been, Gausman, and what he has done, he is ranked the #2 prospect in the Orioles organization. They have another young pitcher who is ranked higher than him.
Dylan Bundy, and he is a right-hander coming back from Tommy John surgery, so he is a ways away yet. You saw Brian Mattis. He's in their bullpen now. He was a #1 pick of the Orioles. He was drafted as a starter. He was the 4th pick overall in 2008. He has thrived since they've moved him to the bullpen. 2 balls and a strike to Adam Lynn. Fouls it back. But the Orioles, they were down for a long time.
Yes.
So they got a lot of top picks. Since 2000, they've had 11 picks in the top 10. They've made the most of those draft picks. Here's the 2-2 pitch. Outside, it's a full count.
And those draft picks that you were talking about, is they got them here to the big leagues quick. I think if they show that they can handle it, they've got the toughness, the mental toughness, the physical toughness, and the aptitude, let them finish off their development here in the big leagues.
This is popped up down the left field line. Long run for Nelson Cruz. He's going to get there, and he makes the catch in fair territory. Linda's retired, 2 down.
You like that idea of bringing those young pitchers up here?
Absolutely. Put him in a major league surroundings, and they're going to see what it takes. If you look at the team that's on the field for the Orioles right now, Nick Markakis was a 7th pick overall in 2003. Matt Wieters is on the DL, but he was the 5th pick in the 07 draft. Manny Machado was the 3rd pick in the 10 draft. We mentioned Brian Mattis. He was the 4th overall pick in 2008. Kevin Gausman was the 4th overall pick in 12. They have not missed on their number one picks.
You know what that tells me, though? That's a lot of losses to get those high draft picks. And they were bad for a long time. But the reward is you get that high draft pick, so don't miss it.
Tampa Bay did the same thing.
Same thing.
Evan Longoria, David Price. 0-2 to Brett Lawrie.
Washington Nationals, how about the bonus they got when they had the worst record for 2 straight years?
Steven Strasburg, front of their rotation.
That's number 1, and the next year they get Bryce Harper. Or vice versa. I'm not real sure which one came first, but luck of the draw.
Or he stays alive.
You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of the Indianapolis Colts.
Really?
Okay? They have a terrible record, and they have the worst record in football, and they're rewarded with the first-round pick, and they take Peyton Manning. And they go all those years and make the playoffs, and they finally stink again, and they got the first pick of the draft, and they get
Andrew Luck.
Andrew Luck. That's luck.
Lawrie drives it down the left side, but that's going to hook foul into the seats. Yeah, timing is everything. I mean, if you have a number 1 pick and there are no good players, what are you going to do?
How about that? It's like Michael Olowokandi when the Clippers had the number 1 pick in the NBA draft. There wasn't a Patrick Ewing to be found. Timing is everything.
Inside. Lawrie takes a close pitch. Mike DeMiro down at first base signals no swing, so it's a 2-2 count to Lawrie. Now it's full.
Pretty obvious what they're trying to do to Brett Lawrie. Crowd him and throw high fastballs. Saw Phil Hughes do that yesterday to Brett. High fastballs, and Lawrie swung through it.
Fouls that ball off his foot. Another pitch inside. Talking about the draft, let's go back and look at the 2010 draft. The overall selections: Bryce Harper of the Nationals was first. Manny Machado of the Orioles was third. Chris Sale and Aaron Sanchez, who has just been promoted to AAA. He was 34th in that 2010 draft.
Pays to be bad on certain years. You get that guy with the 3rd overall pick.
Good walk by Lawrie right there. Boy, he was patient, laid off that inside pitch, and he'll take a 2-out walk. Second time he's walked tonight.
Yeah, and second time that they tried jamming him and laying off those pitches. Good at bat there.
Deanna Navarro will step in. Orioles have a 3-0 lead. Blue Jays have just 2 hits against Kevin Gausman. Ball on a strike.
Tell you what, Blue Jays have done well tonight. They haven't gotten the hits, but they have made him work. They might, if they keep this same approach for this at bat and the next inning, they might not have to worry about Gausman past the 5th inning.
Pop back out of play. Yeah, they have made him throw an awful lot of pitches, and that's the one thing. You get a young pitcher And his pitch count up to 75 right now. They'll get him out of the game early.
Yeah, you're not going to take chances with him. I know the Orioles aren't going to take chances with him. Get into that bullpen. Even though you're getting shut out, you only have 2 hits.
Chases that pitch inside and strikes out. It's just the second strikeout of the night for Kevin Gausman. We'll go to the bottom of the 4th. Gausman has an early lead. Jays will take on the New York Yankees. Game starts at 7:07 p.m. The first 15,000 fans will receive a social media #MapleLeafJays t-shirt giveaway. It'll be chosen by you. So call the Blue Jays at 416-341-1234 or log online at BlueJays.com to order your tickets for Connect with the Blue Jays night presented by Honda Tuesday, June 24th. Manny Machado goes after the first pitch, and it's a lazy fly ball into center field. 1 down.
The 2014 Honda Civic, Canada's best-selling car 16 years in a row, and the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Mark Burley with 1 out will face the number 8 hitter, Jonathan Schoop. Schoop had a sacrifice bunt in the 2nd inning, and that led to the 3rd Oriole run. After Manny Machado had a leadoff double off the wall in right, Schoop moved him to 3rd, and Caleb Joseph, the catcher, drove him in. Three and 1 now. Bouncing ball foul outside of 3rd.
There's a good changeup right there. And again, I think that's going to be a good pitch for Burley. Seems to be starting to lock in a little bit with that off-speed pitch to the right-handers.
This is bounced off the mound. Burley waits for it, takes his time, and throws to first for the out. No panic in that approach.
He doesn't go fast on anything. You can just see the veteran in him right there. Ball hit right off the mound. He got himself in position. He's going to spin and he's going to throw. No panic. No hurry.
Catcher Caleb Joseph had an RBI single. His first time up, he had a good at bat, fouled off several pitches, and Got a 3-2 pitch he could handle. Batting just 140. He now has 4 RBIs. His previous 3 runs batted in were all game-winning runs batted in. He hits this ball hard down the left field line, but it's foul. Mark Burley trying to put up another 0 and give his hitters a chance to get back in this game.
Yeah, he can go a couple of ways right here. He can try that inside cutter, see if he can lock up the right-handed hitter, or he can go even softer than that last pitch that was pulled down the line. Got under that one. He does such a good job of understanding what the hitter's trying to do and just take a little something off, speed him up.
Yeah, it's not all about 100% effort, that's for sure. Take a look at the American League win leaders. Masahiro Tanaka won his 10th last night. Mark Burley has 10. Felix Hernandez of the Mariners, Dallas Keuchel. Boy, what a good start he's off to. And Rick Porcello. Tigers knew something when they traded Doug Fister away, that Porcello was about ready to blossom. Burley knocks it down, takes his time. Joseph is retired. The first 3 up, 3 down inning for Burley tonight. The Jays trail 3-0. Now it's time for a Blue Jays Central update. Here's Jamie Campbell and Greg Zahn. Here's Tuesday, June 24th, 10 p.m. Eastern on FX Canada. It's not available on Bell. If it's anything like Homeland, count me in. Terrific series, and Tyrant will premiere June 24th. Blue Jays have been down this road a lot recently. They haven't scored yet. Mark Burley has settled in. He has given up 2 runs in the first, a run in the second, but put up a couple of zeros, and now it's up to the Blue Jays to figure out what's going on with Kevin Gausman.
Yeah, figure out Kevin Gausman. The Oriole pitchers have been really pitching well of late also. And Gausman is following suit.
Orioles starters have allowed 2 or fewer runs in 10 of their last 13 games. They have really been on a roll. That being said, the Orioles find themselves just 2 games over 500 at 33-31.
In this start tonight by Gausman, they asked Buck Showalter the other day, what does this start mean for him? And he goes, nothing. If he starts and he pitches well, we might keep him in the rotation.
Buck Showalter is a big picture guy, but he did say if he pitches like he did in his last start, we view him as a starter.
As a starter, that's right. He was also making noise about maybe using 6 starters.
There's a drive into right. Marquez on the run. He's not going to get it. It's up against the wall. Francisco is headed for second. On Francisco with a leadoff double. Francisco had been scuffling at the plate. His 9th double of the season.
Looked like he took that one right off the ground. Watch where that pitch is. Down, and he goes down and gets it. Another thing the Oriole pitchers haven't been doing over the last couple of games, they haven't been giving up extra base hits. This is their first one as he splits the gap in right center field. Good start.
Anthony Gose had a single off the pitcher his first time up. He bunts this one up the third base line. That's a fair ball. Caleb Joseph makes a heck of a play. Joseph knows this field well, and that ball was going to stay fair. And he picked it up when it was on that foul line and threw a seed to first base.
He had to make a decision very quickly. Do I try and make this play? Do I let it roll foul? I know who's running. This guy, Ghost, can really run, and he made the decision that he's going to pick the ball up barehanded, and he spins all the way around and throws a strike.
Yeah, this infield grass is cut very close to the foul line, and more often than not, that ball will stay fair. And Joseph recognized that, and he made a nice play. Francisco at third now for Reyes, and he goes after the first pitch. This ball is popped down the left side. J.J. Hardy, he makes the play, gets the ball back in quickly, and Reyes is out on one pitch. Good play by J.J. Hardy, and he unloaded in a hurry to keep Francisco from scoring. But since the 20th of May, you look at the Blue Jays record in their first 17 games, they hit over 300. In the last 5, it's been a struggle offensively.
It really has. And John Gibbons was talking about that the other day, saying that, you know, we got to start hitting. I mean, that's how this team is built. This is how it's been put together. We can slug with the best of them. The last 5, they just haven't had that happen for them. They're not hitting with runners in scoring position, and they're not hitting the long ball.
Well, and that Reyes at bat right there, that really exemplifies everything they're doing. Going after the first pitch in a run-producing situation. Now he's got Gausman with the upper hand with 2 outs. Melky Cabrera has grounded out and walked. You know, when the Blue Jays were really on a roll in that hot streak, hitters would take several pitches before they offered at it, even in run-producing situations.
They weren't afraid to hit with 1 strike or even 2 strikes. Right now, a little bit too anxious at the plate.
There's another example, borderline pitch, and Cabrera chased.
Reached back for a little something extra there. 98 miles an hour, it said.
It's a nice weapon to have in your back pocket.
Yeah, when you need to go to something, just don't overthrow it.
Right back up the middle. The Blue Jays are on the board. Melky Cabrera delivers a 2-strike, 2-out single.
Boy,
99.
He reached back for a little something extra. He blew the one by him and thought he could go get Melky Cabrera, but Melky shortened up on him. Watch how he shortens up, just uses his hands, and lines it right off the glove of Gausman in the center field.
Gausman's had 2 shots drilled right back at him in this game. Jose Bautista now bats with 2 outs.
You know, if that doesn't tell you, you can't throw the ball by good hitters. If you make a mistake, they're going to hit you.
Melky was late on that previous pitch at 98. He said, okay, I'll just shorten up and use my hands.
And he did. And it was a high pitch that he could reach.
Bautista takes 1 down, 2-0. Bautista has hit 18 home runs in his career against the Orioles. 9 of them have come right in his ballpark.
How about one right now? Number 19. It's a great hitter's ballpark. And he's in a fastball count.
Got a breaking ball. He had his fastball swing, but Gausman crossed him up. The Blue Jays have homered in just one of their last 5 games. And it's something that has not been a concern. They were knocking the ball out of the ballpark at a regular pace. They haven't homered in the last 2 games, and it's the 4th time this season that they haven't homered in consecutive games.
And you're going to go through streaks like that. You're not going to stay as hot as they have been. So you're going to have to figure out different ways to score runs.
Bautista's done a terrific job of hitting with 2 strikes once he gets to that count. But he's aggressive early in the count.
Straightening out the second baseman a little bit. 595 shifts last year by the Orioles. And Bautista's put them back where they started.
Pops this one up over the back of the Blue Jays. Now this would be interesting to see what Bautista does. Now he's got a 2-2 count. He has been a totally different hitter this season with 2 strikes, especially in these situations where he needs to get a board. Take that ball up and away and really stay on it and drive it to right.
First thing, you're absolutely right. Gausman got away with a mistake right there. I think that was a splitter, and they hung it over the middle of the plate. You can see where that pitch is right there. Now, they have been going to that high fastball to Bautista at times when they need a strikeout. They might try that right here.
There goes Cabrera. Bautista bounces it to third. Machado has a good arm and throws it up. Well, the Blue Jays are on the board. Melky Cabrera with a 2-out RBI single has cut into the Orioles lead. The 7th, 28th, and 29th when the Blue Jays take on the Chicago White Sox. Bring the cottage to the city of Toronto for the weekend. Enjoy the pregame festival outside of Gate 10. There's live music, a licensed area, sun and sand. The 200-level outfield will be turned into a porch oasis, so make sure you call the Blue Jays to order your tickets. You can do that at 416-341-1234 or log online at bluejays.com for your tickets to Cottage in the City weekend. It's a 3-1 Orioles lead now. Nick Markakis leading off the 4th inning. Off-speed pitch lifted into center field. Melky Cabrera, the outfielder, gives way to Anthony Gose, who makes the catch. Markakis is retired.
Blue Jays on Sportsnet. Brought to you by the 2014 Honda Civic, Canada's best-selling car 16 years in a row, and the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays. And by Home Hardware, homeowners helping homeowners with expert advice.
Delman Young hit a 2-run home run in the first. It was his 4th career home run against Mark Burley. Buck Showalter did his homework. He knew that the top of this order has presented problems for Mark Burley. You look at Markakis, Young, Jones, and Davis. The lowest batting average is Chris Davis, and he's at 375 against Burley.
How about that? With a lot of at-bats.
Delman Young lines it to left. That's in front of Melky Cabrera. Young has his 2nd hit of the night.
Yeah, got to the ballpark, and I saw that Stephen Pierce, who'd been swinging a red-hot bat for the Orioles, was not in the lineup, and I said, well, there's got to be a reason for it. Started digging into the numbers and saw that Delman Young just feasts off of Mark Burley. Buck Showalter taking the numbers and using it to his advantage.
Stephen Pierce has a 4-game hit streak, and he is 6 for 13 during that stretch. You were right about that. But Delman Young has done more damage against Mark Burley, and he has done it again tonight. Adam Jones has walked and grounded out, 1 down. Blue Jays looking for a ball on the ground here. Up and away. Ball 2. Adam Jones actually made his big league debut with the Seattle Mariners in 2006. Played 2006, parts of 2007 with the Mariners. And he was involved in one of the most lopsided trades in Orioles history. It matches right up there with the Frank Robinson trade they made with Cincinnati Reds when Robinson came here in '66.
Orioles got the better of that one, I think. Ooh.
Foul back. The Orioles got Adam Jones, Chris Tillman, who's in their starting rotation, George Sherrill, who was a reliever that made the All-Star team, and 2 more players for Eric Bedard. It was a very good trade. There's Chris Tillman, who has turned into a fine young starting pitcher. Jones has been a 3-time Gold Glover and an All-Star.
I remember seeing Adam Jones when he was with the Seattle Mariners. Very young player when he first came up against the Blue Jays, and said, wow, this guy's got some talent. He might turn out to be a pretty good ball player. But at that time, they had some other outfielders like Ichiro, so they could afford to trade Adam Jones.
Jones has turned into a 3-time Gold Glover and a 3-time All-Star. Chris Tillman, 37 and 28 in 98 starts with the Orioles, and Eric Bedard is now with the Rays. He's bounced around Pittsburgh, Boston, now Tampa Bay. But he was coming off his finest season, and Andy McPhail made that trade for the Orioles.
Sell high. That's how you do it. You've got a guy with that kind of season under his belt. You can get a lot of blue chip prospects if you do your homework.
Well, that's what the Tampa Bay Rays are thinking about right now with David Price. Chances are they're going to move him, and they're looking around to see who has the deepest minor league system. Last time the Rays were in this position, they traded James Shields to Kansas City and got Will Myers, who was characterized as the best minor league player in baseball.
Right. That's right. They did do homework.
Full count. Line drive into center. Anthony Go's got a good break. He makes the catch. Throws on the run, and Delman Young gets back to first with a slide. Nice play by Anthony Gose in center. Take a hit away from Adam Jones.
Got a good read on that ball. The toughest ball is that line drive right at you. And if you freeze for just a second, it gets out there so quickly. It's going to be a base hit, but Anthony read it, made a good break on it, took a hit away from Jones.
Chris Davis, big first baseman, is 0 for 2 so far. Slow breaking ball on the outside corner. Mark Burley has settled down very nicely. Gave up a 2-run homer in the first, an RBI single in the second.
Tall order right now, Buck. I tell you, he's got to get this guy right here. Left-handed pitcher versus a left-handed batter, and a guy who absolutely kills the Blue Jays on deck. You talk about shutdown inning. Blue Jays scratched out a run in the top of the inning. Now they need that shutdown inning.
Nelson Cruz is on deck. There's a foul. I got to ask you a question about that. Nelson Cruz with that single in the third is now 1 for 16 against Burley. Does that still make an impact, you think? You still have to go after Davis?
I think so, just from what he has done. You're right. I saw those numbers. He was 0 for 14 coming into this game against Mark Burley.
That's a surprising number. Burley, great changeup there, and that'll do it. Burley wasn't sure that was the third out of the inning. He's throwing so good he wanted to stay out there for another out. Blue Jays have closed ground on the Orioles. They trail by 2 as we head to the 6th.
The 2014 Honda Civic, Canada's best-selling car 16 years in a row, and the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Kevin Seitzer having an animated conversation with Jose Reyes, and you can see you open up that front shoulder, you pop up the baseball, you got to think about a line drive, and Reyes popped up on the first pitch in his last at bat with a runner at third.
Yeah, get your hands on top of the baseball and shorten up your swing just a little bit. When you get long, that back shoulder seems to tilt down, and that's when you don't get on top of it and you hit a lot of balls up in the air. Don't ever want to take the aggressiveness away from Jose Reyes. That's the type of player he is. I don't have a problem with him swinging at that first pitch like that.
You just want him to get a base hit.
Oh, of course. And I think what Kevin Seitzer was doing, he was just reminding him to just stay on top of that high pitch.
Kevin Gausman has given up 1 run on 4 hits through 5 innings. There's a high pop-up on the left side of the infield. Manny Machado moves into foul ground. 1 down. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership. One down here in the top of the 6th. Adam Lynn takes the first pitch down and away. Scott Carson, our very good stats man, has just informed me that Colby Rasmus is playing tonight at Buffalo, and through 5 innings he has a single, a walk, and a strikeout. That's good news. He's the DH tonight. They plan on him playing in the outfield tomorrow. There's a little looper into right. Marquez will play it on a hop, and Linda's aboard. One out single for the Blue Jays DH.
Get him going again and get Colby Rasmus going again.
Yeah, Colby Rasmus is a guy that probably come back maybe 3 or 4 days from now. He is scheduled to be in the outfield tomorrow at Buffalo. Then they'll evaluate where he is after the first 2 games. And then, of course, the Blue Jays will have to make some decisions as to how they get him back onto the active roster.
I have a feeling, and I have nothing to base this on, but knowing that he's playing tonight and tomorrow, off day Monday, then we head to New York in that short right field porch. I have a feeling we're going to see Colby on Tuesday in New York.
That would make sense to give him the extra opportunity to play down in AAA. And Laurie gets jammed and fights off that inside pitch. Well, Rasmus is on the DL, and he is rehabbing right now. Sergio Santos is rehabbing as well. Brian Mattis, left-hander, loosening up. Mattis is one of 3 left-handers the Orioles have in their bullpen. Oh, and 2.
Tell you, Brett should know right now what they're trying to do to him. They've been trying to heat him up all night and try to jam him. They just don't think he's going to get around on his fastball.
He has walked twice tonight. He's been able to lay off some of those pitches inside. Breaking ball into dirt. I think Kevin Gausman is wearing those glasses now, and something he just started doing this season. In the past, he has worn one contact lens, which is kind of interesting, but he has an astigmatism. His right eye is worse than his left eye, so he would wear one contact lens, and he said it caused him to have migraine headaches. So he went to glasses this spring, and it seems to be much better. There's an off-speed pitch. May have been that Spiller, and he strikes off Laurie. Well, the Blue Jays are on the road. This is the first of 10 games on this road trip, and the next 4 series are going to be important series, as they all are. 4 in Baltimore, 3 in New York. Then to Cincinnati to take on the Reds, and then the Blue Jays return home to Rogers Center, and it's the Yankees once again. So this is a pretty challenging stretch of the schedule.
Chance to make a statement, I think, in the American League East. You got the 2 teams that are just below you in the standings. And John Gibbons and his coaching staff and the players should not look at it like that. That we got a chance to put some distance. They should just think about playing good, solid baseball. Make the pitches, catch the ball when it's hit to you, grind out at bats, and the wins will take care of themselves.
Strike to Deanna Navarro. Do you think it has any impact whatsoever that so few of these Blue Jays have ever been through a pennant race?
It could. It could, because of the pressure and the excitement and what it takes to get a base hit to help your team win ball games. You know, there's a difference playing on a last place team and first place team.
Navarro hits it on the ground. Hardy will flip the scope to end the inning. Blue Jays leave another base runner. They have stranded 6 through the first 6 innings and trail 3-1. Uncovers the meteoric rise of Canada's own Eugenie Bouchard. Plus our exclusive can't miss NHL draft report on newsstands now or online at sportsnet.ca/magazine. Eugenie Bouchard made it to the semifinals of the French Open. She is really becoming one of the top-rated women tennis players in all of the world, and Stephen Brunt will tell you all about Eugenie Bouchard with this current issue of Sportsnet magazine. Mark Burley set to work the 6th inning. Blue Jay fans anxious for a little comeback here. They trail by 2. Nelson Cruz, J.J. Hardy, and Manny Machado will lead things off for the Orioles against Mark Burley. First pitch strike to Nelson Cruz. He has singled in 2 trips to the plate tonight. His first hit against Mark Burley came in the 3rd inning. Take a big wild cut at that curveball.
That one was just off the end of the bat, too, into right field. It's good to see the veteran Mark Burley right to ship after the first couple of innings.
Gave up a 2-run home run in the first, an RBI single in the second, and that's been it. And when you look back at his last start against the Cardinals, he was good then as well. Strike 3 called. Nelson Cruz strikes out. 1 down. Let's check in with Jamie Campbell. Thank you, Jamie. David Ortiz just keeps rolling along. J.J. Hardy takes one inside off the plate. Nelson Cruz was caught looking at strike 3 for the first out of this inning. That's the 30th strikeout Burley has had this season, called strike 3. They say, what's so unusual about that? Well, I'll tell you, the leader in the major leagues of the most strikeouts looking is David Price with 44. This is popped straight up over the shortstop's head. Laurie sliding over and gives way to Jose Reyes. 2 down.
The 2014 Honda Civic, Canada's best-selling car 16 years in a row, and the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Manny Machado goes after the first pitch.
I'll tell you what's odd about all those strikeouts. Looking by Burley, guy throws 84 miles an hour. Big difference between David Price's 96, 97. How does he do it?
It's all set up. There's another pop-up into left field. Belky Cabrera coming in. The inning is over. Burley retires the side in order in the 6th. We'll go to the 7th. It'll be Juan Francisco. And Little League Canada. St. Mary's, Ontario, June 21st and 22nd. A site will be Rotary Field at the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. Instructors include George Bell, Wayne Ward, and Devon White. Visit BlueJays.com/Baseball Academy for more information. The Toronto Blue Jays are proud supporters of amateur baseball across Canada. A couple of changes here in the 7th inning. Brian Mattis takes over for Kevin Gausman. The left-hander comes on to start this inning, his 30th appearance of the season.
You know, you talk about the high draft picks. Mattis is another one. A high draft pick, was a starter early in his career. That just didn't work out, and he's really taken to the bullpen. He's put up some very good numbers. This is his 30th game. Lefty's hitting just .209 against Mattis this season. Held him to a 168 average last season, which was the 5th best in the American League. And that will force the Blue Jays to make a change.
Steve Tollison will come on as a pinch hitter. He'll bat for Juan Francisco. Francisco finishes up with a double and a run scored in 2 at-bats. And on bat is a newcomer to the Blue Jays, former Blue Jay Darren Mastriani, back in the organization, just called up from AAA Buffalo. So Tollison trying to get aboard against the new pitcher, Brian Mattis. Mattis delivers the first pitch, strike. Mattis was drafted in the first round of 2008. Actually made it to the big league in 2009. Came up and made 8 starts at the end of the 2009 season, his first professional season.
Got a very good fastball and a wipeout breaking ball. It'll pick up a lot of strikeouts. As a reliever, he can come in and throw his 1 inning or face a couple of batters. Give your all. Give me everything you got for an inning or so.
Mattis was originally drafted out of high school in the 4th round by the Angels, but decided to go to the University of San Diego. He went there and became a 1st round pick of the Orioles. Ball and a strike to Tollison. He bunts right through it, trying to get aboard. Steve Tollison, as a pinch hitter, has gone 2 for 7. Downstairs, it's now 2-2. Strike three call. Matt has got the fastball on the outside corner. One down.
Canon's Best in Glass sales event. Performance cameras and lenses at the season's best prices. Visit canon.ca/bestinglass.
Darren Mastriani steps in for his first at bat with the Blue Jays. Those are his numbers at AAA Buffalo. Mastriani's now 28 years old. He was originally drafted by the Blue Jays in 2007. Played his first professional season at Auburn in the New York Penn League in 2007.
And was swinging hot bats down in Buffalo, and Blue Jays are going to be facing a lot of right-handed pitching over the next week or so. So the plan was to send Kevin Pillar down. Mastriani basically takes his spot on the roster and will fill in as a pinch hitter and a defensive replacement, and give Pillar a chance to get some at-bats.
Ball and a strike.
Play every day down in the minors.
That high breaking ball is in there. Mastriani actually made it to the big leagues with the Blue Jays in 2011. One game, he had 3 at-bats. 2012, he was taken off waivers by the Minnesota Twins and played in the big leagues in 77 games in 2012. He's got some speed. He had 14 stolen bases in AAA for the Bisons. Plus, he's also been able to get on base. He had a .376 on base percentage.
Can play center field, and he projects more as a fourth outfielder type, more than Kevin or Pillar right now. Pillar more of an everyday player, and younger, and he needs to play.
That was strikes out. Mastriani, 2 down.
He had a very high swing and miss rate last year. Brian Mattis, almost 30% of his pitches were swing and miss pitches last year. You can see why. Hard breaking ball and a hard fastball right there in a good spot.
Back to the top of the order. Jose Reyes 1 for 3. Takes a first pitch strike. Reyes shows bunt, takes it outside. It's a ball and strike. Kevin Gausman with a real good outing here tonight. He goes 6 innings, allows just 5 hits and a single run. He walked 3 and struck out 3.
2 of those hits were infield hits by the Blue Jays. Just 1 extra base hit.
Little squibber up the first base line. That stays fair. And Reyes is going to be called out. Home plate umpire Jerry Lane says he was out of the running lane inside the grass, and Gibbons is out to argue with Jerry Lane. But Lane never hesitated. As soon as that ball hit Reyes in the middle of the back, he shot that right arm into the air.
You watch it right here. Joseph one more time knows that that's not going to roll foul. And you can see Jose Reyes is on the grass, the inside part of that bag, and I think it's the right call.
Well, John Gibbons is making his point. Looked like Reyes' foot was on that foul line when he went up the first base line, but Jerry Lane. Watch where Reyes is when the catcher picks up the ball. He is in good shape there. That stride, he's still okay. John Gibbons might have a point. He's on that line, but there's where he drifts inside, and that's why he's called out. That ends the inning. We'll go to the bottom of the 7th. The Orioles lead at 3-1. Mark Burley back out for the bottom of the 7th. He trails 3-1. Adam Jones. Excuse me, Jonathan Scope goes out for the first, but it'll be Scope, Joseph, and Markakis for the Orioles.
Scope's got some power. He doesn't have the big batting average just yet, but he's got some power.
Steve Tollison takes over at second base after pinch hitting for Juan Francisco. Brett Lawrie moves to third. There's a ball off the end of the bat. That's going to get down and go all the way to the warning track. Mastriani gets it back in, and Scope has an opposite field leadoff double.
There's that power we were talking about, not just in the form of home runs, but extra base power for a second baseman. 9th double of the season for Scope. Drilled that ball. That was down and away.
So you got to expect the catcher batting in the 9th spot is going to be asked to bunt here. There's a look at that last pitch to Scope. He had a pretty good pitch.
Yep. Cutter on the outside part of the plate, and he goes out and gets it. Last time they had a leadoff double in the second inning, Buck Showalter sacrificed him over third base. I expect the same thing here.
That's a bunt to Lawrie. He goes to first, and Joseph gets the job done. Scope goes to third on the sacrifice bunt. So now the infield will have to come in against Nick Markakis. Markakis had a leadoff single in the first. He scored on Delman Young's 2-run homer. He is since struck out and flied out.
Same situation here with a runner on third base, less than 2 outs. You don't have to go on a ground ball here.
Burley comes inside. That's where he struck out Markakis back in the second. Threw him a high fastball inside and got him to strike out. Burley trying to strand that base runner at third. 1 out. Scope at third. Delvin Young is on deck. Steve Delabar is loosening up in the Blue Jays bullpen.
They might give Nick Markakis the green light here. Pick out one you like. See if you can drive him in.
That was a strike. It clanked off the glove of Navarro. 3-1 now. Mark Burley trying to wiggle out of this tough jam. Bottom of the 7th. Markakis stays back and lifts it down the left side. Long run for Cabrera. It'll be into the first row of seats out of play. Skopan camped out on the base at third. He was tagging if Melky would have gotten to that ball, but he ran out of room.
That would have been a tough play for Melky Cabrera if he caught that ball. Skope did the right thing and positioned himself where he's looking over his right shoulder at that ball. I don't know if Melky would have been able to throw him out.
A lot of momentum going toward that wall. Here's the 3-2 pitch to Markakis. He drills it to right. This ball is off the wall. Skope jogs in. Markakis is headed to second. He'll stop there with an RBI double. 12th double of the season for Markakis, and he drives in a big insurance run here in the 7th.
And it continues to hit Mark Burley. It looked like Burley tried to surprise him with a fastball and tried to get him to take it, but it's up and a little bit out over the plate. And Markakis has been swinging a hot bat. He gets that barrel out in front. He's able to stay inside that ball and drill it. Looked like Mark Burley fell off the mound. You see he loses his footing on the wet surface. And that will be the last pitch he throws tonight.
Markakis ends up 2 for 4 against Burley. Delvin Young will be the batter, and he'll face Steve Delabar when we come back. The Orioles lead at 4-1. RV Honda, proud to be the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
First inning again tonight against the Blue Jays, and another home run. This time it's Delvin Young connecting for the 4th time against Mark Burley in his career. Got the Orioles 2 quick runs in the first inning. Our drive of the game tonight brought to you by Delvin Young, who looks like he's going to stay in the game and face Steve Delabar.
Got Ryan Flaherty and David Lowe on the bench. A couple of left-handers they could use, but Delvin Young's had a good night. He's 2 for 3 with a home run. Steve Delabar into the game, making his 29th appearance of the season, trying to close out this 7th inning.
3-0 with an ERA of 4.8 for Delabar. Mark Burley's night is finished after that double by Nick Markakis. Delabar fastball and splitter. I think he's got to use that heater, use it at the bottom part of the strike zone, and then finish people off with that good splitter.
Delman Young is 0 for 2 against Delabar. Markakis in scoring position at second. There's that good fastball, just missed the outside corner. We mentioned the Orioles are the best team in the majors batting with runners in scoring position. Tonight they're 2 for 2 again. As a team, they came in batting .287 with runners in scoring position.
And that .287 leads the major leagues.
Steve Delabar trying to save a run for Mark Burley. Markakis had an RBI double. Delabar worked on Tuesday in a Twins game, and he misses upstairs. Now 3-1. Steve worked the 8th inning, gave up a single, hit a batter, and then was able to get out of it. There's a pop-up on the infield. Tollison, the second baseman, calls for it, makes the catch.
Shows you the kind of overpowering fastball right there that Steve Delabar possesses. 16 and 19 inherited runners stranded this season for Delabar. That was a fastball count to a fastball hitter, and he got all in his kitchen.
Couldn't get his bat around. Adam Jones is 0 for 2 with the walk. Jones began his career with the Seattle Mariners. The Blue Jays got Steve Delabar from the Seattle Mariners in a trade deadline deal 2 years ago. Jones jumps on the first pitch, but hits it foul.
That one turned out quite nicely for the Blue Jays. Thank you very much.
Sure did. Eric Thames was traded from one clubhouse to the other. Delabar came across the field and joined the Blue Jays and turned into an all-star.
Yeah. When I heard about that trade, I was like, they're giving up Steve Delabar? But they needed some power at that time, and they thought Eric Thames was the guy who could supply it for them.
Pulled foul. Delabar ahead 0-2. Mark Burley responsible for 4 runs in this game so far. He went 6 1/3, allowed 8 hits. It's another pop-up. Tollison going back into shallow center, and Delabar does his job. He strands a runner at second, saves a run for Mark Burley. Will go to the 8th. The Blue Jays are down by 3. For the Baltimore Orioles, it's Ryan Webb, big right-hander, coming in after Brian Mattis had a perfect inning in the seventh.
He is another one of those filthy arms that come out of that bullpen. 97 mile an hour with great sink to that fastball, and he's got command too. Look at just 6 walks this season in 28 games for Webb. He also has 23 strikeouts. He can throw his cutter to the lefties and his changeup to the lefties. Runs it up there pretty hard, so Blue Jays got the work cut out for him.
Blue Jays are down by 3 now. Buck Showalter recognizes this is the tough part of the Blue Jays order. Melky Cabrera, Jose Bautista, Edwin Encarnacion. So he has called upon Ryan Webb to work the 8th.
See that ground ball percentage right there? 75%. That heavy sinking fastball that he has can really hit that ball on the ground.
Melky Cabrera's had a good night at the plate and an RBI single his last time up. RBI number 34 for the Blue Jays left fielder. First pitch strike right at the knees. The Pitch Tracker is brought to you by Acer, official partner of the Toronto Blue Jays. Pitch Tracker shows you those 2 pitches were nasty, down and away, the mid-90s.
With good movement also. Pitched for the Marlins last year and got into 80 games for the Marlins. This guy wants to pitch every day. He reminds me, as I watch him, a lot of Jim Johnson, who used to close here.
Cabrera hits it to left field. Nelson Cruz is there. 1 down. So Webb records the first out of the top half of the 8th inning. Jose Bautista has gone hitless in 3 at-bats. Jose has hit in 17 of his last 20 games. So far, shutout tonight. Blue Jays have managed just 5 hits against the Orioles. Breaking ball catches the inside corner.
Yeah, he's got good control, even though he's a big time power pitcher.
Webb is now retired 24 of 29 first batters he's faced, and that's a great number for a reliever.
And I like the confidence that Buck Showalter is showing in him. Tight ball game. Probably the Blue Jays' toughest hitters right here. And they give it to Webb. Jose, he's hit a home run against him in his career, but that time he just can't come up with that hard sinker. Tough to get the ball in the air against this guy.
2 balls and 2 strikes. Blue Jays need some base runners. They've stranded 6 so far in this game. Just 1 for 3 with runners in scoring position. That was the Melky Cabrera single in the 5th. Full count. Buck Showalter just getting a feel for Ryan Webb, and as you mentioned, he has been given more pressure situations as the season has gone on. Showalter likes what he's seen. Efficiency and getting that first batter out has a lot to do with it.
A lot to do with it. Keeping the ball in the ballpark and getting ground balls and not walking people have a lot to do with it also.
Bautista hammers it down the left side. That's a fair ball. That ball will go all the way into the corner, and Bautista's headed for second with a 1-out stand-up double. His 13th double of the season. He's now hit in 18 of his last 21 games.
And that was a tough pitch. Watch this one coming right in. Bautista stays right with it. It's on top of that high heater.
Boy, that was a good example of how a hitter can keep his shoulders level and that bat stays on top of the baseball, and he hammered it down the left field line. So now Edwin Encarnacion has gone 0 for 3. He'll try to pick up Bautista. Bautista's headed for third, and he'll take it. Webb never even looked him back. All the infielders were antsy, but the pitcher never noticed Bautista with a walking lead off of second. That's his third steal, and he gets himself over to third base.
Scouting report on him is you can run on him. He's got that long high leg kick. He didn't even look at Jose, not even one time. Jose gets himself to third base with less than 2 outs for Encarnacion.
Inside, and he fights it off. Edwin is struggling a bit. You can see his frustration. He felt like he had a pretty good pitch to drive.
He did. He was just a little bit late. He's always at his best as you see Zach Britton starting to get loose. I'm sure that's for Adam Lind on deck. Edwin is at his best when he's really loading up with his legs. When you see him start to load up and sit back on that back leg as the pitch is being delivered.
Another pitch up in the zone, and looked like a breaking ball that he was able to foul off.
What that does is it gets Encarnacion moving and gets his hand moving, gets his body moving, and that's how he's able to rifle so many balls into the stands. Generates a lot of power with his legs.
One ball, 2 strikes, 1 out. Bautista at third base. Broken bat, and out by Webb. He knocks it down. He'll go to first. Bautista comes in for score. Webb kicked at it, and fortunately for the Orioles, stayed right on the mound. Bautista scores. Encarnacion picks up the RBI. That's number 54.
This thing was heading to center field for a base hit. He just happens to just throw his foot down there. Kick it, keep it in front of him. That's like that play the other day against Minnesota Twins when Kevin Correa stuck his glove out there with the bases loaded and Jose Reyes hitting and caught the ball and got an out.
Changed the whole ball game. It was in the second inning. Blue Jays had the bases loaded. They would eventually strand the bases loaded. It came with 1 out as they were able to get Laurie at home on the force out. Same type of situation. Looked like the ball was headed into center.
And if it does, the tying runs at the plate.
Adam Lind has a hit tonight. One and one. Checked his swing. Hunter Wendelstedt down at third base agrees with them. 2 balls and a strike. Brett Laurie is on deck. He'll follow Lind if he can keep the inning going. This is fouled down the left side into the seats. Blue Jays had a couple of tough ball games here early in the season. There you see Aaron Luke warming up. The Blue Jays played a 12-inning game in the middle game of 3 games early in April. They lost 2-1 in the 12th inning. In that ball game, Kobe Rasmus tied it up with a 2-out, 2-strike home run off of Tommy Hunter. Now it's a full count.
Yeah, that one was heartbreaking because they were losing. They were down to the last strike. Then they tied it on the home run. Had their chances and then got walked off.
David Lowe had the game-winning base hit after Lombardozzi tripled to start the inning. 3-2 pitch, 2 outs. Ball 4. A rare walk issued by Ryan Webb, and that'll bring Brett Lawrie to the plate.
Good patience at the plate right there by Adam Lind. Just the 6th walk of the season by Webb.
Brett Lawrie has walked twice and struck out. Lawrie represents the tying run. Borderline pitch inside. He was looking for that fastball, and Webb got him to foul it off.
They have constantly pounded him up and in tonight. First it was Gausman, and now Webb staying up inside.
One and one to Lawrie. Lind with the 2-out walk is at first. Lawrie has 4 home runs in this ballpark, hitting just over 200 in 25 games here at Oriole Park in Camden Yards. Bouncing ball. Machado will go to second. That'll end the inning. Blue Jays leave another base runner. They've stranded 7. We'll go to the bottom of the 8th. The Orioles have a 4-2 lead. Now it's time for a Blue Jays Central update. Here's Jamie Campbell and Greg Zorn. And try new pulled pork.
You know, if you come to the ball game and you're a fan and you're a Blue Jay fan, wear your jersey because someone's going to recognize you and you might get a baseball. This is the end of the 6th inning. Melky Cabrera to the Canadian Brett Lawrie, and he looks up into the stands and he sees some Blue Jay fans and he throws a P right to them. Bring your glove, bring your jersey, you might get a ball.
And make sure you can catch. Good job by Brett Lawrie. Makes a Blue Jay fan happy fan here tonight. Score doesn't make them so happy. Blue Jays are trailing 4-2 as the Orioles are set to bat in the bottom of the 8th. Big Chris Davis, Nelson Cruz, and J.J. Hardy. The two clubs have split the first 6 games of this season. Chris Davis has gone 0 for 3. Blue Jays won't be back here in Baltimore until September. 3rd week of September. Another good fastball.
In a good spot. Blue Jays have had their troubles with the Orioles in this ballpark the last couple of years.
Last 2 seasons, the Blue Jays are 5-13 here in Baltimore. As bad as it is, that's a little bit better than the Blue Jays at Yankee Stadium. Last year, the Jays went 0-10 at Yankee Stadium, and they are 2-17 over the last 2 years in New York.
I did want to mention that. Yes, we got.
We don't make them up. We just report them.
That's right. That's right. You know, makes it tough.
There's a foul ball past Wayne Kirby down the right side.
It would help if you were playing your best baseball this season heading into a road trip like this. 3 cities, 3 really good teams, and two of them where you haven't had a lot of luck the last couple of years.
Well, Blue Jays got to change that. Turn it around. This is the first of 4 here in Baltimore. Upstairs, it's 2-2. Chris Davis with 10 home runs and 31 RBIs. Terrific season a year ago. Now he's got a full count. Last year Davis hit .286 with 53 homers and 138 RBIs.
Everything worked for him, and pitchers got to be a little bit more careful to him now.
Davis strikes out. He strikes out for a 2nd time tonight. First strikeout for Delaball.
That looked like the splitter right there. That he went to it. Certainly is. And he really crosses up Chris Davis. Davis looked like he was sitting on the heater.
Left fielder Nelson Cruz. Right at 300 for the season. Jerry Lane got rocked with that foul tip, knocked his mask right off. Well, we've seen some umpires get hit over the last week. Tom Hallion got drilled right in the face mask in Toronto, and that one popped the mask right off of Jerry Lane.
Yeah, the Hallion one caught him flush. I mean, straight. It knocked him backwards. That one looked like it hit that little cage area that's supposed to protect the Adam's apple neck area, and just knocked flipped his mask off.
Orioles batting in the bottom of the 8th. Another good splitter, and Cruz is way out in front. J.J. Hardy is on deck, the shortstop. good cut of that fastball. Tomorrow's pitching matchup, Drew Hutchison goes to the mound at 4-4. He'll be opposed by Waldo Jimenez, who is 2-7. Jimenez signed as a free agent, and he's gotten off to a rocky start. His ERA is 5.01.
He's had his moments. He's had a few games here and there where he was successful. Other games, not so much. I think they were counting on big things from Jimenez this season.
Drew Hutchison went 6 innings in his earlier start against the Orioles right here at Oriole Park. He shut out the Orioles on just 4 hits through those 6 innings, walked a couple and struck out 5. That was the extra inning game. Blue Jays tied it up in the 9th. It was a 1-1 game after regulation. The Orioles scored a run in the bottom of the 12th to win it. Steve Delabar came into the ball game with 1 out in the 7th. Got 2 pop-ups to leave a base runner. Struck out Chris Davis to start the 8th. Cruz got a piece of it. Quite an assortment of pitches in this at bat, up, down, in and out, a little bit of everything.
Well, you better be careful if it's going to be up. We talked about that earlier with Nelson Cruz, that up and in, up and away, anywhere. I can go get it.
He fights this one off, and he's going to drop that one in front of Bautista in left. His second hit. Doesn't make any difference. Nelson Cruz is just going to hit the Blue Jays.
Yeah, he doesn't hit it hard all the time, but he always seems to find a hole. His first hit was softly into right field off of Mark Burley back in the 3rd inning. This time he gets sawed off by Delabar and just fights it off, pushes it into right field.
So Delabar is up. Loop entered the ball game with a man at first base and a right-handed bat coming up, J.J. Hardy. Loop making his 30th appearance of the season.
And you might be saying, well, you got righties coming up the next 3, and you had a right-hander out there. Why are you bringing in the lefty? First of all, Steve Delabar threw 27 pitches to get his 1 inning in there, so you don't want to burn him out. You're going to need him in this 4-game series. Aaron Loop has been throwing much better. His fastball command has been much better of late. His breaking ball has been better, and his changeup has been very tough on right-handers.
J.J. Hardy looks at one up and away. David Lowe has come off the bench to pinch run at first base. He's got some speed, but he's also their defensive replacement late in the game, so he has taken over as the pinch runner. Lowe is 5 for 7 in steals this season. Loop has had some outings where he just can't find the strike zone. Then he's had outings like we saw in Detroit with the bases loaded and nobody out, and he strands the bases full.
Total shutdown when he's got all three of those pitches working: the fastball, the changeup, and the breaking ball. He has actually this year pitched better against right-handers than he has against left-handers. And I think that's where that changeup comes into play. Not afraid to throw it to the right-handers.
Right-handers have hit 177 against Aaron Loop. 3-1. He walks him. So Luke walks the first batter he faces. That pushes David Lowe to second base. Manny Machado, the third baseman, had a double in the second, came around to score. Machado coming back from off-season knee surgery. Been a slow start to his season. Injured himself running up the first baseline in St. Petersburg against the Rays, and he was fortunate it didn't turn out to be a more significant injury, but still it took him a long time to get back.
Spent the winter rehabbing, and there was some thought that he would start the season on time, but that wasn't right. And anytime you don't have your legs underneath you as a hitter and you don't feel confident, I think there's an adjustment period and a time where you're thinking about the knee constantly when you're hitting or when you're fielding, when you're throwing, when you're running, whatever. There has to come a point where you just go out there and play the game anymore, and you don't have the afterthoughts of the knee injury.
Yeah, you can't think about it, that's for sure. Ball on the strike. Up and in, now 2-1. Well, Machado last year in his first full season in the majors hit .283 with 14 home runs, 71 RBIs. He had 51 doubles. That one hit tonight is only hit in his last 21. There go the runners, and the ball is fouled out of play. But you talked about how numbers in the minor leagues translate. Manny Machado never put up big numbers in the minor leagues. In 4 seasons, he was a .260 hitter. Had 23 home runs in 4 seasons in the minor leagues.
That's it. Yeah. A young player when he signed and he's filling out in his body. You mentioned those 51 doubles. As he gets older and fills out, gets stronger, understands, and gets the league a little bit more, those are going to turn into home runs.
Luke now with a full count. Aaron Loop into the ball game. He walked the first batter he faced. Now he's got a 3-2 count on Manny Machado. David Lowe at second. J.J. Hardy at first. They're not running, and the ball is inside. Loop will walk the bases loaded. Jonathan Scope will step to the plate with the bases loaded and 1 out. Orioles lead at 4-2. Now the infield is going to come in, play halfway. They can ill afford to give up another run. Scope doubled in his last at bat. First pitch strike.
If he hits it sharply, the infield can turn the double play. Anything that's hit softly on the ground, they have to come home. But if he hits a two-hopper to Reyes or Tolleson, the second baseman, they can turn two and get out of the inning.
Fouled straight back to the screen. It's 0-2. Last time Blue Jays were here in Baltimore, Scope was playing third base. And he had a couple of rough games defensively. He was filling in at third until Manny Machado was activated.
Cost that one game against Blue Jays. A couple of throwing errors that led to a few runs.
Much more comfortable at second base now. Here's the 0-2 from Luke. Way outside, not close. This is the first of 4 games here in Baltimore against the Orioles. Luke reaches for it up and away. Boy, this is where Luke has always been so good if he can get that fastball inside to the right-handed hitters. We heard it from the Tigers that they don't see that crossfire fastball inside.
From some pretty good hitters, too, of the Tigers.
J.D. Martinez and Miguel Cabrera both complained about not being able to pick up that fastball.
I have confidence in that.
There it is. He got it in there in a good spot, but Scope was able to foul it off.
Scope is choking up on the bat. And he's trying to track that ball as long as possible. Shortening up his swing, just get these runs in.
Inside, and he strikes out Scope. That's the second out of the inning.
I like how he elevated that one, got it above his hands to get the strikeout. It's happened to the Blue Jays a couple of times when they are hitting offensively. They swing through pitches like this or pop it up. Luke comes from down under and picks up a big strikeout.
Caleb Joseph had an RBI single in the second inning. Had a sacrifice bunt his last time up. Two and 0. Luke has had problems with the base on balls this season. In 31 2/3 innings so far, he's walked 19. Last year, he walked 13 all season long.
Yeah, that's the mystery. And you could count on him last year. He's come in and just pump it right in there. Challenge those hitters.
His 13 walks last year came in 69 in the third innings. So far, he's thrown 32 in the third, 32 2/3, and walked 19. 2 balls and a strike. You just wonder how that unorthodox delivery has created some inconsistencies. As much as it is a weapon for Luke, hitters don't see the ball very well. It may be creating some release point issues.
Yeah, the release point, it's a timing issue with him.
There's the good changeup, and he gets a couple of strikeouts. Interesting inning. Luke comes in and walks 2. Bases are loaded. He strikes out 2. We'll go to the 9th. The Blue Jays need a couple of runs to tie. East Ontario and West, it's connected with Ken Reed and Ivanka Osmak on Pacific. More baseball. The Yankees are in Seattle to take on the Mariners. The Yankees won 4-2 behind Masahiro Tanaka last night. New York will be the next opponent for the Blue Jays. That will take place next Tuesday after an off day on Monday. New pitcher into the ball game to start the top of the 9th is Zach Britton, who has taken over as the closer.
Yeah, with Tommy Hunter, who just got off the disabled list while he was on the DL. Zach Britton took over that role, and you can see why. 3-0 with an ERA under 1. He sinks that fastball. He constantly throws it in there. 24 strikeouts, just 10 walks for Britton. A great whip. Look for that sinker. Try and square it up. Look at the ground ball percentage. We talked about Ryan Webb with 75%. Zach Britton's at 90.
Yeah, he's got a bowling ball sinker, that's for sure. He is 5 for 6 in save opportunities. This is a save opportunity. Kevin Gausman is the pitcher of record for the Orioles. Yonder Navarro will try to get things going. Takes the first pitch strike. Britton throws hard. And it's a 2-seam hard fastball. 94 with that first pitch.
Early in the year, he was up 97 and 98. The arm strength is definitely back.
Just outside of first as Navarro reaches for it. Blue Jays use their pinch hitters in the 7th, so Steve Tallison is on deck. He's a right-handed bat, and he'll be followed by Aaron Mastriani, who pinch hit for Anthony Gose in the 7th. Upstairs. Tallison struck out as a pinch hitter in the 7th. Mastriani did the same. Blue Jays are down by 2. Strike 3 called. Navarro didn't like it. 1 down. Now for a preview of what's coming up next on Connected. Here's Ken Reed from Ivanka Osmak. That's coming up right after this ball game on Connected with Ken Reed and Ivanka Osmak. 1 down now. Steve Tallison. 0 for 1. You remember how I used to say, okay, this guy's left-handed, we can get this guy. Britton's not one of those guys.
No. I mean, you could probably count on your hand over the years left-handed relievers, closers who throw this hard. Billy Wagner comes to mind. I mean, lefties who come out of the bullpen and just attack you with the fastball.
Bouncing ball up the middle. Scope behind second, and he's not going to make the play. Tollison is aboard with an infield single. Scope made a nice play going to the shortstop side of second, but he couldn't get much on the throw.
You're going to get a lot of ground balls when Britton's on the mound. You just got to be able to place it. That time up the middle works out for Steve Tollison. Scope couldn't get a lot on it, and he wasn't very accurate as he pulls Chris Davis off the bag. Would have been a heck of a play if he came up with it.
Darren Mastriani. He struck out as a pinch hitter against Brian Madison in the 7th. Goes after the first pitch, and he's late on that fastball.
That might be the way to attack Zach Britton right there. Don't stride. Use your hands when that ball as a right-handed batter is going away from you. Punch a ball to right field. That was a pretty good approach right there as he fouled it off.
Blue Jays trying to rally in the 9th. Came inside and found the inside corner. Mastriani has to battle now. The Orioles have turned 77 double plays. That's the most in the majors. Jose Reyes top the order on deck. Bouncing ball. Hardy to second for one. Back to first. Double play. 78th double play of the season turned by the Orioles wraps up the game for Baltimore. Britton picks up his 6th save. Kevin Gausman his 2nd win of the season. The Orioles rode an early 2-run home run off the bat of Delman Young, and that was it.
You know, Buck, what's happened here is the Blue Jays look like they might challenge this call at first base. The umpires have not left the field. They're asking if they can challenge that play if he is first or out. Why not?
Yeah, you got to challenge it anyway, right?
Take a shot right now. Let's see if the out was recorded at first base. It was a bang play. And wow, that is going to be really close, but it looked like it's going to be out.
Looked like Mastriani's foot was in the air as Davis made the catch, but John Gibbons, what do you got to lose here?
Nothing to lose. Yep. Right here.
So Jerry Lane has put the headset on. Mike DeMuro, the umpire at first, made the call, and he is with the crew chief. So they're listening to New York as Blue Jays are challenging the final out call at first base on a double play.
It's going to be tough to tell when that ball got into the glove. We had that one shot. This one right here should be pretty close. You see Mastriani stretching it out to try to get there before the ball arrives. And it looks like it's in the glove, and it's
foot's in the air over the bag. Yep. That's the way it looks from our perspective. They'll have a different look and a few more replays in New York. They appear to have the decision. And there's the call by the crew chief, Jerry Lane. The ball game is over. It indeed is a double play, and the Orioles win the opener 4-2. Delman Young set the tone with a first inning 2-run home run. Just his second home run of the season, but his 4th career home run against Mark Burley. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. It's Connected on East Ontario and West. More baseball coming up on Pacific. We'll see you tomorrow night. Here's Ken Reed and Abaka Osback.